Hello. Um, I thought I would record my second part of my MS story. I would call it MS Story Part 2. I'm filming this myself and I'm registered blind, so anyway, if there's really bad video quality, then I accept any criticism. The reason I decided to make a second MS story video was because I recently read an article by a former BBC journalist who also was diagnosed with MS, and she decided to go for the treatment, what they call that, where they give you chemotherapy and then they basically wipe out your entire immune system and then reboot you with stem cells. I've been watching this treatment for some time. Obviously, I have secondary progressive MS, and I've kind of been watching this treatment unfold over a number of years. And just recently, when I met my MS nurse, she said, "Why wouldn't you have this treatment?" And I actually have a lot of answers as to why I wouldn't have this treatment. And having read that article by the BBC journalist, I most certainly would have a lot more doubts about it than I was kind of very skeptical of it before, and I'm increasingly skeptical now. So what happens is that this new so-called treatment is they give you chemotherapy as they would a cancer leukemia patient, and it's extremely dangerous on some counts and it makes you very ill. You're also several months where you could be exposed to infection with having no immune system. It's a bit like having HIV or something. You could die of any random infection. Sorry, having a sip of coffee. And also the whole philosophy behind it to me seems wrong. So they're mostly targeting this treatment for younger people with what they call relapsing remitting MS. So in my experience, I too had relapsing remitting MS when I was younger. So I had an attack when I was 17 for about a year, and then another attack in my mid-20s, where you're basically knocked out for a year, and then you come back again, you're fine, and you go off and you carry on your life, unwittingly knowing, or nowadays, I don't know, but at that point they hadn't diagnosed me properly, so I just carried on and just, well, that was that. I didn't. Well, they said it was ME or something like that, and you're just totally confused. But you feel okay, so you just carry on with your life. So they're people of that symptoms, relapsing, remitting. They're targeting for this chemotherapy nonsense. So they give you the chemo in your mid-20s or 30s. And then you feel fine again. Somehow they like force reboot of your system. And some people say, "Oh yes, okay, I feel better now." A minority have this miracle cure experience, and then a lot of other people get extremely ill or they die. And I think the mortalities are really not being advertised correctly. And there's people going off abroad to do it. There's people doing it here in the UK. They're going. This journalist article I read, she paid £60,000 to go to Monaco. Oh no, Monaco, Mexico. Anyway, and I know they offer it in China, India, Thailand, all over the place. But I would I have been extremely skeptical of this idea for a long time. When I was in the middle of a bad MS attack, somehow ended up in Germany. And I was in a small ward, and the guy next to me was going to be the first person ever in Germany to have this treatment, where he was going to have his entire immune system deleted and then rebooted with stem cells. And I said to the doctor, "Hey, doctor," I said, "Well, what could I do that? That sounds like, is that going to work?" And they just looked at me and went, "No, this is like last chance. This guy is desperate and he's just taking an absolutely massive gamble. He's the first one ever in Germany. They highly would suggest that I do not need to worry about having that kind of treatment unless you're absolutely desperate." But nowadays it looks to me like they're plugging it to younger people. And I mean, one of the side effects of this chemo is it's going to make you infertile, if nothing else. That's probably not a good thing, right? And the doctor who promotes this in the UK, I had experiences with him myself. I'm not going to name him, but I kind of feel he was a very irresponsible doctor. I paid to see him privately. Then he was all very nice, and then because I couldn't afford to see him privately, I transferred to the NHS and saw him on the NHS, and then it was like months and months, and he treated you like, what's the polite word? Didn't treat you very well, and his attitude was completely different. He was extremely arrogant, and he also, because at that point I was losing my eyesight, and I had lost sight in both eyes, and then I managed to get sight back in one eye due to steroids, but not through his treatment. And then he kind of just blew it off and wasn't interested. And then I had another attack, and then I lost. That was the final. Like, I lost sight in both eyes. So I do not have confidence in this gentleman, and he's the leading light in Britain for this treatment. I could suggest that they're doing this for fame at the expense of people with MS. I don't know, but I do not really think it works. And when I talk to people in the profession, you sort of in the, and they do this. They take out all your immune system. They pump you full of steroids. They give you rituximab or whatever it's called, that incredibly expensive drug that is also hit and miss. Who knows what that does? It seems to me like they just dose you with every possible thing they have, in the hope that this reboot of your system will bring you back to life, so to speak. I am not a believer in this, and I would strongly recommend against doing it. Obviously, maybe the odd person seems to find a benefit in doing that, but I don't think it's been presented correctly, and I don't think how they're making the decisions are also, what's the word, ethical perhaps? I don't know, but I really, they say, oh, these numpties who are against this treatment. Why would they be against this treatment? Because it's dangerous. It might kill you. I don't think it really works. Even just logically, if you look at it, it doesn't work. Why would we be? Why, just to be your guinea pig, do we have to sacrifice our very fragile health as it is that we have now? Many people find a balance and manage to carry on. Why would we just let's make ourselves incredibly ill for a year by having chemotherapy, and then let's see how we feel after that. Do you feel better? Oh no, you don't. Oh well, that's a shame. And paid £60,000 for it in the meantime. And who knows what the side effects are of chemotherapy. I mean, it's not really, it's just insanity. It's just the drug companies. They spend in Britain billions of pounds on these disease-resistant drugs, which in my opinion don't really work. I mean, I went through all the different ones. It's just a kind of scam, really, the whole thing. I've found that Chinese medicine, you could say, helps, or just changing your lifestyle, your diet, and just calming down, getting out of stressful situations tends to be much more effective than self-injecting yourself with God knows what chemicals that they've come up with, because they don't understand it. So if they don't understand something, how the hell are they managing to come up with some cocktail that they can inject into you 3 or 4 times a day? It's just, I'm not a believer. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in, because I was obviously, before I was, when I first was diagnosed with MS, I was a journalist. I went through the whole losing your job thing, and then was left to my own devices in Britain, where if you've got MS, they basically say come back in a few years. We might have figured it out by then, but we really don't know what's going on. And now there's this pioneering new chemotherapy treatment, which to me seems incredibly irresponsible. And they're experimenting with people's lives. And they don't want people like me saying things like this because I know it would discourage people from going for this treatment. They give you all this, oh, you'll be great, it's a miracle cure. And that's how it's being portrayed in the media. There's been documentaries about it. Like I got my dad calling me up, oh, I saw this guy, he had a mess, he couldn't walk, and then suddenly he's like mountain climbing or something because he had this treatment. Great. But it's relapsing, remitting. Yeah. I mean, is that not making any sense to anybody? Anyway, okay, I don't know. I think that's enough of a rant. Okie doke. Goodbye.